This is going to be the first YouTube video I've done in quite a long time, about a year or so. I had a lot of stuff going on in the last year as far as my career goes, so I had to take care of some stuff. I know it sounds strange, but again, I had some stuff to take care of, so I had to lay off the making YouTube videos for a while. I have a couple different channels that I make videos on, and this is just one of the channels that I want to dedicate myself to for a little while. So a couple of years ago, I discovered Zachary K. Hubbard on YouTube. I was looking for numbers, to be quite honest, and people who talked about him. And Zachary K. Hubbard, Zach, was the second YouTuber that I found, and the first one that I found that I enjoyed. Although I found somebody else before him that he knows very well, and I watched him for about a month, maybe a couple of weeks, and I discovered that I didn't like his presentation. So I searched some more and I discovered Zachary K. Hubbard, and I'm glad I did. His channel is one of my favorite channels to look at. He's one of the very few people whose videos I like as far as clicking the like button, because I don't generally do that. I don't generally like videos, so to speak, unless I really do enjoy them. And it's a video that I'll watch over and over and over again. A lot of the videos that he does, especially concerning biblical numbers, I'll look at over and over and over again. And one of the things that he's sort of introduced me to, I guess, is the idea of Revelation chapter 13, verse 18. I think it's obvious that even before Zach came along or before I discovered him, I knew what 666 was and I knew where it was located, but I didn't know a lot of the other properties that go along with 666. So I discovered gematria, so to speak, through Zach. And we all know what the idea of gematria is. But just know that from a very young age, I used to apply numbers to letters, even though I didn't know that that was a real practice. So, Revelation chapter 13, verse 18 says, "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath knowledge count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. I put a little note there to indicate that one score equals 20, so 3 scores, 20 years. What's interesting about this chapter and verse that gives us 666 is, if you were to multiply 13 times 18, you would get 234. And if you add 234 to its inverse, you would get 666. And I don't consider that a coincidence. It's a little more than that. It's a little more deliberate when the chapter and verse calculates, so to speak, to the chapter and verse. And for those who need proof, visual proof, we have 13 times 18, chapter and verse, and that equals 234. So you see that right there. I don't think I'll be needing that calculator again. So down here I have, for it is the number of a man, right? Because this tells you how to calculate the number of the beast. But then it says, for it is the number of a man. And to me, the reason why it says that is because if you know, the human body is a carbon-based life form. Carbon is the sixth element, and the reason why it's the sixth element is because the elements of the periodic table are stable. They're stable elements, which means they won't react to anything, right? And the reason why they're stable is because they have the same number of electrons and the same number of protons and the same number of neutrons. For those that don't know, the atomic weight of carbon is 12. And the reason why that is because protons and neutrons are 1,000 times heavier than electrons. So they have more weight, so to speak, as funny as it sounds. So in science, they use protons and neutrons to determine the weight of an element. So 6 plus 6 is 12. Again, to create a stable element, you have to have the same number of protons, same number of neutrons, and the same number of electrons. So 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons. And that is why I believe when it says to calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, that's what this means right here. A lot of times I like to think that the Bible is telling us information that maybe 2 or 3,000 years ago we didn't know, but today we do. So I believe that this is a parable, and we'll get into parables in a minute, but I believe that this whole entire chapter and verse is a parable, and that God, through Jesus, is telling us that human beings are a carbon-based life form, that we are 666, that we are made of 666, that we are carbon-based. I have right here, if you go back to Genesis, we're just trying to look at these numbers, right? So if you go to Genesis chapter 6, verse 6, which is 66, 666, 66, the Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. That's just something interesting to note, in my opinion. The idea of 66, 66, and that the Lord God indicates that he regretted making man. I said earlier that I believe that this is a parable, and the reason why that is because I'll indicate that in another video. So what I want to look at here is the number 66. I know it's not 666, but it still applies. In gematria, here is wisdom sums to 66. That's full reduction. Number of the beast sums to 66 in full reduction. The number of a man sums to 66, also in full reduction. The Protestant Bible has 66 books, and I don't think that's a coincidence. And for those that, again, need visual proof, here is wisdom. The number of a man, 66. And it is number of the beast, 66. And it's all down here, once again. So, to conclude, so to speak, Revelation chapter 13, verse 18 is the biblical verse that got me thinking more about gematria. Gematria is 74, and that's another important number as it relates to the Bible. So, to show you how, we'll just go Jesus equals 74 in the English ordinal. Cross equals 74 in the English ordinal. Messiah equals 74 in the English ordinal. A lot of times numbers are reflections of each other. So that cartoon, Beauty and the Beast, Beauty is 74 and Beast is 47. I find that interesting. You may or may not. So 66 is relevant because in the Protestant Bible there are 66 chapters. And in Genesis, one of the first stories that Genesis talks about is the story of Cain and Abel. 66. When you have children and you're beginning to teach them how to talk, how to speak, how to write, how to say their ABCs and how to count, one of the things you'll say is you have to learn your ABCs. I'm going to capitalize ABCs, and they're 1, 2, 3s. ABCs 1, 2, 3s is 66. This is a mind game that we use. You must learn your ABCs at 1, 2, 3s because children take to those things. Children take to the rhymes. Mind game, it's 66. Mind game. So that's it for now. You know what? Since we're here, we'll take a look at Matthew chapter 13, verses 10 through 13. Revelation chapter 13, verses 10 through 13 says, "The disciples came to him," being Jesus, "and asked, 'Why do you speak to the people in parables?' He replied, 'Because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have in abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken away from them. This is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing they do not see, though hearing they do not hear or understand.'" And I found this where it says Jesus often uses parables, which is an earthly story, with heavenly meanings. And there are 8 parables in Matthew chapter 13. I didn't know that. So, just like we did for Revelation 13:18, when you multiply 13 times 11, you'll get 143. And when you multiply 13 times 12, you'll get 156. And when you multiply 13 times 13, you'll get 169. So note the 13 comes from the chapter, and 11, 12, and 13 comes from when Jesus is the one actually speaking. See up here, the disciples came to him and asked, "Why do you speak in parables?" And his answer was 143, 156, and 169. So when you add these numbers together, you'll get 468, which I think is interesting because if you count by twos, starting at 4, you get 468, like 2, 4, 6, 8. So when you add 468 to his inverse, you get 332. And I discovered this a long time ago, about a year ago. And as soon as I saw the number 1332, I immediately knew what that number meant. So when you divide 1332 by 2, you'll get 666. And that's why I said earlier that I believe Revelation chapter 13, verse 18 is also a parable. Because Jesus Christ says right here that he speaks in parables. He admits to the people, to his disciples, that he speaks in parables. That is why Revelation chapter 13, verse 18 is a parable. It is a parable telling us that man is made of 666. That man is made of carbon. So I thought that was interesting to note. I was going to make this into 2 videos and do a video all on its own as far as Matthew chapter 13, verse 10 through 13, but it didn't take very long, so these are the numbers. So again, if you want to go to my blog, just for a little reading, right? Obviously, everything that's in the blog right now I read to you, but hopefully this grows. Hopefully it grows, and there'll be more on there for people to see, right? Though seeing they do not see. So that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. And again, just the idea that there are numbers in these Bibles in our world that means something to someone. Thanks for watching.